I've always loved creating something out of nothing and working with my hands, but up until a few years ago, my only tool was a hot glue gun. Now I look around at the mess I've made while working on projects for our home, at all the materials and scraps, failed attempts, and many tools I've used to create, and it reminds me of all of the fears I've overcome to get here. The fear that my ideas for a project weren't going to turn out the way I envisioned them. The fear of using a power tool for the first time because I was so scared I was gonna hurt myself or didn't know how to use them properly. Feeling like an imposter and an amateur because I didn't have the education or experience to do the projects that I really wanted to do. My fear showed up in the form of procrastination, failing to get started because I didn't know what I was doing or I didn't think I could right away. Once I learned that my procrastination was just the fear creeping in, I started to think of my goals and projects differently. I started to ask myself, what's the worst that could happen? What's the absolute worst possible outcome? Is there a way for me to help keep that from happening? And even if it does happen, can I fix it? And let me tell you, the worst possible outcome has never happened. With all of the projects and power tools I've used and dangerous situations I've gotten myself in, not once has my worst case scenario happened. But I was prepared with a solution if it did. By working through the worst case scenario in my mind, it helped me to get started and not procrastinate as much. I refused to let the fears I had rob me of the joy that creating and working with my hands gives me. And I look back now at all the projects I've accomplished over the last few years, and I'm so grateful and happy I didn't give in to those fears. Good morning, guys. It is a very overcast, gloomy, gloom June morning. Kind of the calm before the heat rolls in for the summer. It's enjoyable, but it's been every day. The mornings start off really calm and slow, which is wonderful. I hope you guys enjoyed last episode where we did our soft arches and trimmed out. I'm just calling them soft arches because I think that it's a pretty name. It's basically arches with a lower radius. They're just more shallow. They're soft arches. And then we took it even further with trimming them out, which I'm really happy about. But I am changing something. You know, sometimes projects take on a mind of their own, which these did. I had no idea I was going to take it to this level, but I'm so happy that I did, and I'm so happy that I spent the time. I also duplicated the majority of it onto the other arch off camera so that we can really see the space totally different. My goal was to make these arches feel taller, feel more inviting to the rest of the house. Also remove the odd angles on the corners. I personally just didn't like them. I felt like it was a missed opportunity for something really beautiful. So they definitely accomplished that. But when I did the design, I wanted there to be an extra detail, like kind of in this area. So I made these collars, and the idea is there, but these are not quite right. You know, I feel like I've done so many projects, renovation projects at the cottage, and just going through the motions. I really want to spend the time in this house to correct things that just don't feel quite right to me. This is one of those things. I do like that it adds so much detail here. It's not just like you can see on this side, I took it off. It's not just the straight trim. It has a little something extra. I do like that. But because we have these lights on the other side of the arch, forced me to lower the collar, is what I'm calling it. It forced me to lower it lower than I wanted it. And I feel like it's a little off. I just feel like I naturally would have wanted this detail to be right at the crease, right where the curve becomes straight. I feel like that would have given me exactly what I wanted and made it higher too. Now, I would never run into, this is not impeding on the archway at all. I would never run into it. Ideally, I would have wanted it higher so it gives it a different look, and I just feel like they're too low. So I spent all day making my own corbel. I know. I sat outside with just some trim, and I didn't even take it as far as I wanted to. This is still like a work in progress. I just wanted to see a detail like this. I wanted to see if I could create something with just materials I already had. Most of the time you see a corbel in the corners, you know, of walkways, outside holding up a roof, underneath an island, you know, where you sit at your bar, you'll see some corbels. There's lots of shelving. There's lots of things. Basically, it's a bracket, right? A decorative bracket. It has a flat top and a flat back and then some design. But to find a corbel in the exact size that I wanted it, being 6-inch wide, very shallow because I don't want it to impede the walkway. I've done very, very deep dives. Unless I had something custom made, well, I can try and make something custom, although I'm not like a crazy woodworker. It's not finished. I wanted another piece here, and I tried some like a little bit of an arch. I needed to close up the side. I was making like some little details down here, and I was out there and I was sanding it and I was making it less. When I cut it the first time, it looked very southwestern and angular. So I was like, no, I need to soften it. I need to make it like more French. And I was like out there sanding by hand. And I was like, MaCenna, what are you doing? You need to take this thing inside. You need to put it up on the arch and see if it's even an option. That's what we're doing. You see right about here, it starts to flatten. That's where I would naturally want something like this. Now, I'm gonna explain a couple of things about this if we like it. So it would just be a detail inside, not outside. Wouldn't be this low, and it would just be in here, right? They're completely different looks. I know it's a small detail, but it's a very significant detail, I feel. The idea of a corbel inside an arch is that the corbel is holding up the arch. It's offering that support, right? So right now, my arches come down and then slide right into the wall. It's the same level. In order for something like this to work, I would have to build in the arch. I would have to make the drop a little more significant. Like I would have to bring it out at least an inch, if not an inch and a half. And I have a couple of thoughts around that, what I could do. Drop right about here so that this level and the wall level of the arch are different. Most of the time you see corbels longer or taller than they are wide. So that's where I started. I think I'm actually going to like it smaller. I want it shorter than it is wide. So I'm gonna work on this more. This is just an added detail. It's not structural, it's something extra. So I think this is a definite no for me. I'm gonna take this off and we're gonna redo a corbel and I'm gonna work on it for a while. And then when I finally get something I really like, we're gonna add it. For now, it's not it. I should have known when I hesitated on caulking all of this out and putting the finishing touches on it, I should have known that I wasn't feeling it. But that's okay. You know, projects are a work in progress and it's okay to change your mind. That's just what we're doing. I also have some incredible news. I was super scared to attempt to strip these beams. I kind of kept procrastinating. That's usually when I'm a little bit, I don't know, I'm gonna do it, but I'm not gonna do it right now. I have incredible news. They only have 2 layers of paint on them and they're pretty new. Amazing for us because it was so easy for me to use the heat gun. So last night I actually put some orange stripper because it's not stinky, you can use it inside. I don't have to stand there with the heat gun. Now we can see if that is gonna do it because then I can put stripper on it and then just strip all the beams and turn them into the moody, deep dark wood color that's in the dining room. I'm so excited. I'm really hopeful that the orange stripper will work because that would be crazy. Put a towel on the floor. I feel like it's doing a good job on the first layer. Like, excellent job actually. But it didn't really cut through the second layer. Oh. I mean, it's definitely like something that's possible. Do you know what I mean? It's nowhere near the struggle it was to get the 7 layers of paint off the windows at the cottage. Like, nowhere near. This is a walk in the park compared to that. So I'm actually going to put another coat. You're just gonna paint this stuff on. You can put it into a container. I just squeeze it out. My goal for now is to just strip it away from where it joins the wall, because I do want to paint the ceiling as well, but we can paint the ceiling later. I think I want to paint the ceiling the same color and just like color drench the whole room. Okay, let's talk about this staircase wall, like just this part. I feel like it's a missed opportunity. I feel like I definitely want to add some trim detail, you know, a form of board and batten in some form. I actually want, I don't know, I feel like it's just like nothing. There's nothing here. I also want to come back with some really pretty decorative stair brackets, like for underneath. I need to order them. I need to find the ones that I love, and then we can replace this shoe molding here, this quarter round, with a pretty decorative piece, and we can paint all of this portion. I feel like it needs to be a different color. I don't know if I want to continue, like, you know, kind of maybe like a brown or something darker, pull the dark from over there over here. I want to do like some mock-ups, you know, of actually like, okay, if we put like a pretty piece here, you know, how can we make this like super special? Also, what about these? Do these stay white? Do you know, like those little touches? Now the windows are in here are staying white, so it wouldn't be super unnatural to invite white into the room in a different way, for sure. The staircase is going to go through stages, I feel like. I also learned the hard way that even when you're doing like a wall treatment detail that's showing the wall, paint first. If you paint after, it's a lot, you need a lot more tools, it takes a lot more time. It's easier to paint the wall first, then add your detail, and then paint over the trim. Can you please excuse me? You're on my paper. I need everything to make sense, and I'm a perfectionist. And those things takes time. I have spent the better part of 2 hours just like making sure that I don't get anything on these beautiful oak floors. And I didn't like the texture of that wall, so I smoothed it. It's drying now. And then there's this. What is this? It's some kind of weird outlet. They're sideways. Who knows? I mean, this house was built in the 30s. Instead of taking it out and like plugging it and, you know, like making it make sense, I noticed this when we were touring this house. That's how my attention to detail is just like what is that? Why is that there? Why did they paint over it? That doesn't make sense. Well, me over here trying to get through layers and layers of wall paint. I got one screw out, trying to get the rest of them out so I can take it off the wall and actually fill it and it makes sense. That's where I'm at right now. I just want everything about this house to be perfection. You know, like it's just, I'm just taking the time to do it if I can. And I'm curious, like, what is it? There we go. Oh, some kind of, wait, what? I gotta turn off the power though. I don't know if it's hot. I turned off the power. That's like old wiring. Like that's not even a thing. This used to be brass. A brass one. Oh, and they painted over it! Ah! Ah! I could buy like one of those like just like solid plates. I feel like would be better than like a hole. Or I could like actually fill it. I mean, the plate is definitely like better than just what it was, or like I could always go and fill it later, but let me see if a plate will fit. Because I'm gonna paint all of these the same color as the wall. Yeah, I could just like cover it like that and paint it, and I feel like that would look better than the hole. Hours later, it's finally time to paint. I can't stress how important the prep work is. It's tedious, it's time consuming, it feels like a lot. You just want to get to painting. Like that's how I always feel. But I know I'm gonna get such a better paint finish and job if I take the time to go through, cover everything up. So now we're ready. We're finally ready. We are going with Sculptor Clay by Behr. I got a higher quality paint as well. I got the Marquee paint because it's a 1-coat hide guarantee. And since these are kind of like a lot of walls, we're doing a lot, I don't want to have to go over it twice. After many painting projects and painting with all different levels of paint, it's always more time consuming if you go the cheaper route, and it almost ends up costing you just as much because you have to get more of it. Sculptor Clay is a really pretty color. I tested about 6 different colors. Overall, I really wanted to keep this front room, our entryway, and the front living room really bright and airy because we do lack the sunlight after about noon, 11 a.m. when the sun goes above the house. And I want to keep it light so that you're not walking into like a cave, but we can bring in some darker elements. So keeping the foundation very light and neutral, but not pure white was definitely my goal. So I've been keeping an eye on this 1-coat paint. And it's actually doing really good. There were a couple of places where it was like I missed with a brush, but for the most part, it looks really good. And what I like to do is take the tape up while it's still wet. I feel like I get the most crisp line that way. And then if it did bleed anywhere, I can go ahead and fix it pretty quickly while everything's still wet. Also helped me with my being so impatient. I like to see the color. I want to see the difference. You know, you may have thought that this color was super light, but look at it compared to white. Any darker than that, I feel like we would have lost a lot of like brightness in this room. Sculptor Clay is a really pretty color. It's a very like ashy, warm gray, but it can go cool as well, similar to what we did on the cabinet color in the cottage. That was Pashmina. And it has some similarities, some similar features to it. But overall it has a little bit of yellow undertone, a little bit of green undertone. It's not too blue, it's not too cool, because I tend to decorate with warmer color. So I think this color is going to be fantastic in here, but you never know until it's on the walls. So cross your fingers with me. I also think it pairs really nicer with the darker wood floors. And also when we finish the beams, my test sample looked great with everything. So I think it's going to do really, really well. Even from just that corner and the window done, I feel so much calmer. It is crazy how drastic a room could feel by the color of the paint. Good morning, guys. It's the next day. This color is stunning. I love it. I love the way it feels. It makes the room feel so much calmer. I spent all last night until like 1 a.m. painting just the walls. I love it at night. I love it in the morning. We get the best light in the mornings, but it's been super gloomy, so we didn't get any real sunlight. just a little bit to see what it really could feel like in here, and I absolutely love it. Next up, we're gonna tackle stripping all of the beams. Romeo's gonna help me. We're just gonna strip them all, paint the ceiling. We'll really get a sense of how the room is gonna feel up on top too, major difference. And I can't leave you guys hanging. If you've known what color I'm gonna be painting the fireplace and the front door, you may have as much anticipation on this as I do. I need to see this. This is black mocha. So it's like dark, 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 dark brown. Like black brown. Like, oh, I cannot wait. I've gotta see it. It's probably gonna take 2 coats though, to be honest, like probably. And I also did a higher finish, did a satin finish, and I might even come back and seal the topper just to make it super durable, you know, 'cause that's the surface that will get touched the most. I felt like the arches were still a little wet, especially on this one, to prime and sand and just make perfect. So I go ahead and let it dry. I need to prime them, paint them. It's gonna be so good. Very excited about this. Look at that. It's like the deepest brown, but like brown undertones. So for me, it just took the starkness of black off. It just kind of cut the top off so that it just felt a little calmer. I'm big on calm, if you hadn't noticed. Let's just see. Definitely have to use a brush to go into these edges, but 3, 2, 1, go. It's like the darkest brown. Definitely 2 coats. Taking on a room makeover or an entire home renovation has too many projects to digest. The fears and procrastination were too big to overcome, so I started taking them one thing at a time. What's the one thing I can do today to get me closer to the goal and the vision I have for a project? And I start there.